Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to today's office hour. I want to believe you can hear me. I'm trying to confirm so I can follow you on YouTube. All right, let's wait for more persons to join us in and then we get started. All right. So today we're going to be reviewing all that we've been doing for the week. That's style guys basically. And then doing a little brief talk. Doing that tomorrow, talking about what we're covering next week. But today I'll be answering your questions from the form. Make sure to fill the form, and I'll be showing you some quick tricks, And then if you have questions, also I'll do so. We'll try to address them. So let's get more people in, then we can. Okay, someone is asking which form. There is a form for you to fill to ask questions. All right. Yeah, so we answer questions from that form. The form has been dropped on Slack and multiple times. Yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead with the first question, and then should we wait for my persons to join? Are you sharing the link on Slack and getting more people in? Maybe we should wait a little for them to join, and then can someone announce on Slack that we are live? I'm so sorry for the delay. There was a live class that was going on, and that was why we couldn't start almost immediately. All right. I'm trying to find the form. Can someone help reshare the form also? Trying to find the form. Can someone help share the form for you to ask questions? I'm trying to find it. I don't seem to find it. Um, okay, I found it. All right. Video stop. All right, I shared it again. All right. Okay, so let's get started. Someone is asking if my text size is 16 and the square size is 16. Are they the same size? I don't know what you mean, but then when a square size is 16, you're saying height and width is 16. When a text size is 16, then it's 16. I'm not sure why you need to know if they are the same size. I'm not sure. All right. So I say, I don't mean to take you back, but I've watched the video from the course and most of the officers, and I'm still unable to go about my task. Please, can you recap on how to go about the task, please? Okay, someone is saying I should recap on how to go about the task. Okay, so I think the task is quite pretty clear. You are meant to design. I'm sure you possibly skipped or did calm down to go through. You know, each of the tasks are supposed to help you to first off, you're meant to define your colors, right? Primary colors and different kinds of secondary colors, you know, your shades of colors, your just all the colors, right? As it was explained in the video. And then you're meant to do your typography, and then after typography, you're also meant to, you know, put down buttons. You're meant to do your button icons. Yes, you're going to fetch out icons, you know, and then you're meant to do your buttons, and then you're also meant to, you know, do text fields. So I think all this was explained in the video. That's the resource. I want to believe I'm correct. Yes, it was strongly explained. So I don't know what else I'm supposed to explain or how to go about the task. I really don't know what else I'm supposed to explain. All right. I hope I'm able to address that. Okay. So someone says my grade, when I send the link and this view, it doesn't show. That's not an issue. It shows when you are doing it. It doesn't show for the person viewing your work. That's how Figma works. The input variant, can this be illustrated once more? What do you mean by illustrated? You mean like I should show it? In case you want me to show it, okay, let me give a sample, right? So I had the text field here from the last class that I did. And then, meet me some seconds. All right, let's go. Okay, so this is a text field, for example. So let's call this, let's say this is input, right? Input. Or let's call it label, something, label, right? And this is entire label or something. Let's just name it label also. All right. So this is like this is a text field, right? Like when it's inactive, you know. So let's say this is a text field inactive. You might want to show the text field active. So when it's active, this may be a little bit brighter. That's the text inside. And then maybe there's a little bit of rounded corners around it. That's when it's active. Now, for example, so this could be, it could be colored too also. So let's say this is, you know, this is our color, right? Yes, that we're using. Okay, so it could be colored, you know, so it depends. It could get colored. And as I said, whatever, basically. All right. So this is just a sample, right? So this can be when it's active, right? So you can have an example for error. So let's say let's say wrong password. Let me just call it an error code. Okay. So it could be an error code, and you want to have red for error. So this is example of states for your design. Come in. All right. Yeah. So this is an example of states for your design, an error code, and then you also want this to be, you know, painted red to show that there's error. You know, what other sizes do we have? What other variants? So the person is asking about variants, input variants, right? So what other variants? So let me just go ahead to my own master design system. So I have a master design system here. So let's look at inputs for us here, for example. So for input here, I have standard, I have label, you know, for text, for example. So I have enabled, right? Yes, enabled. I have over, I have focused, then I have filled, then I have error, right? And then I have disabled. Okay, so these are samples of ones you may want to have. Button, then over, when you over on it, then focused, this is for web, basically this is steps for web, then filled when it's filled, then error when there's an error message, and then disabled, right? So that's really quite quick. Okay, so okay, so that's that for that. All right, so let's move to the next question. Next question says, show us a sample of a style guide. Oh, I just did. Right, for a style guide for you, it's gonna be a bit more or less complicated, right? But then this is an example of a style guide. This is no, not really like style guide, right? This is my design system, the personal work. So you have colors, right? Colors, you have neutral, primary, secondary, success, warning, and error colors, right? Then you have typography, right? In typography, you have your different skills of typography, headline, you know, heading, paragraphs, different sizes from semi-bold, the line height and the size, the line height and the size, the line height and the size, the font weight also, then you have icons. It's a bunch of icons in my design system. It's a personal work, like I said. But then you don't need to have all of this. This is a little bit quite large. Then there's spacers, 8 pixels, 6 pixels, 24, these are just samples, right? Then there's buttons in my design system also. Different buttons, right? Primary buttons, secondary buttons. Then there's minimal buttons. Then there's error buttons. And then there's links. Then I have inputs. This is inputs. Yeah, it's really large. There's a design system. There's a documentation to each of them, right? So tags, tag inputs, text areas, you don't need something as large as this, basically, like I mentioned earlier, right? Then there's alerts, alerts, success message, and all and all and all and all like that, right? Okay, so that's basically it. So you should just find something that works for you, right? But then that's all the things you need to have: your color, your typography, your typography, your icons, buttons, text fields, and all. So these are stuff comprising the style guide. All right. So someone says, can I show an example of info, warning, success, error alert? I just did that. That's cool. So can they explain MailChimp pattern in the resource on IBM design language? I should explain MailChimp. MailChimp and IBM are design systems, right? They are just for you to understand how design systems works. All right. So let me do a quick search. You see IBM design system. So I mean, IBM design system, the carbon design system is too large for you to follow. Do you understand? It's too large. It's too large for you to follow, right? It has so much. You see, there's documentation. There's so much work, gone into that, right? Do you understand? So yeah, basically. So do not stress yourself on IBM and what's the other one? MailChimp. Someone said I should assist with drop downs. What exactly about drop downs you want to assist with? You want to design drop downs? Okay, so if you want to design drop downs, for example, so this is a sample of a drop down, for example. We need an arrow icon that points downwards. Let's find arrow. Yeah, all right, let's go. So we are here back, and then we've planted the guy in here, somewhere here, and okay, so we have this label, and we're here, and here, and here, here. All right. So let's go. All right, so we have label, right? Let's call it drop down label. Let's say drop down label. So you understand what I'm doing. Drop down label. Drop down label, right? So this is an example of a drop down. To fine tune it, you have something like this, right? Under it, you almost want to keep the same color with this guy above here. You want to have the feel, and then keep the same color with this guy above here, right? And then you want to add contents into it, you know. But if this is just an observed way, right? But then for me, I'll just do item one. You know, I had auto layered around it. I'll just duplicate it into multiple ways, you know. Let me put a 16 around it, item one, item two, you know, item three, and so this is item three. Please, if you have questions, ask on with the form, please ask with the form, all right? Okay, so this is sample of a drop down, right? Item one, item two, item three. Around each of these, you want to put some works here, to 0 here, and then you want to stretch these to the end. You want to reduce spacing between them to 8. You want to stretch each of these components, you know, equally or evenly, as the case may be, right? And then we want to add stroke, bottom stroke to each of them, you know, something like this. Right. So you could probably make it white. I think it should be white, you know, and then we add the general stroke around this guy, you know, that's very minimal, right? So under it doesn't have stroke. Okay, all right, so this is a quick sample. Let's have DM sans 14 so that it's equal for each of these, right? DM sans 14, and let's have regular, right? Okay, item one is listed here. Let's just make it is listed here. This for the person asking about drop downs, right? Listed here. Item 3 is listed here. So this is a quick sample of a drop down. As you can see, coming back around the stuff, right? Should be bound about there. Okay. All right, so this is just a quick sample, right? I believe it's just a quick sample. Yeah. Okay, let's go. So this is just a quick sample, right? So this is a sample of a drop down for the person that asked, right? So to make it a bit spicy, we just want to add some effect on that, like shadows, you know, that kind of, you know, shadow on that. Right, and maybe take out the stroke, you know, instead of having stroke. So this is an example of a drop down, right? Please, can you ask your question on the form? So yes, this is a sample of a drop down for the person asking. This is sample of a drop down. You have the text field, or so some tips will be listed here. So let's say let's call this item, say item 0 is listed here, you know, a kind of let's call this auto in between. All right, so all right, so item 0 is listed here, item 1 is listed here, and stuff like that. So this is a sample of a drop down. For the person that was asking, this is how you do a drop down design, right? I hope it's pretty clear. You know, you have your text field here, everything, and then you have this drop down here. Okay, so let's look at next question. What's the standard guide for designing mobile app? We have 120 for desktop design. What do you mean by 120 for desktop design? I don't know what you mean by standard guide. And I don't know what you mean by 120 for desktop design. But when you want to do desktop design, if you're talking about frame size, you should use 1440 with 1440 by 900. 1440 by 900, basically, so that you can have, layout grids that in multiples of 4, basically, putting the 64 way, and then you can have something like this. And then if you are doing for mobile, it's advisable to just use the 11 Pro. That's what I use. It's not anything. I just use 11 Pro, right? And then you can have a layout grid around it, columns of 4, and then you can have a margin of 16 left and right there, right? Okay, so this is samples, basically. So for web, use 1440 by 900. For mobile, just use the 375 by 8112, which is the iPhone 11 Pro size. All right. Okay, so that's that. Next question. My introduction design tags not be graded. Tags are going to be graded. Yes, if your question is tags can be graded. Sorry. Yeah, it is. All right. So spacing system and input feed is not clear to me. I think I just explained that right now, right? I just explained input feed. I don't know why it's not clear. I don't understand what's not clear. When you say it's not clear, I don't know what is not clear, right? Basically, it should be clear. So you have to mention that, okay, I can't do this particular thing. I'm trying to do this thing. It's difficult for me to do, that kind of thing. It makes it very much easy, Some say I can't add plugins on Figma. Can you show me step by step on how to? Okay, I hope you're on this call. All right, so let me quickly address the person talking about spacing system. I already explained the input feed, right? You need your input feeds. That is, I call my own neutral, right? But then you just want its normal, enabled state, right? And then you want to have focus state. Focus state can be a little bit, you can have a little bit stroke around it. That's not too excited. Now, this is focus state, let's say over, or maybe over state rather. This is enabled state, So let me show things a little bit much more interesting. So it's just like you're having it here, say, this is enabled, right? Enabled. Then you're having then you're having over state, then you're having focused, then you're having error, right? So these are just samples, basically, you understand. These are usually samples, right? Change them to 16, put a space between them, track them, that kind of thing. So this is a quick example, right, of your input feeds. Your input feeds, you're having enabled, you're having so you're having enabled, you're having over, you're having focus, and you're having error, right? So sorry, to make sure we how around so it's balanced a bit. And then we're here. All right, so that's it. Input feed for spacing. I don't know what you mean by spacing, but then spacing should be in 8-point grid, like we always advise, 8-point grid. So you want to start with 8. You want to start with 8, and then you want to move up to 16. It could be this way, and then you want to move up from 16 to what's the next now, 24, and then you want to move up from 24 to say 32, and then you want to move up from 32 to say 48, and then you want to move up from 48 to say what's it now, the 64. So this is a quick sample, a point grid system for your spacing, right? So this is how to give a spacing direction to a developer to work on, so spice it up a little bit, giving it different colors and stuff like that. All right. So then you may want to add the dimensions to each of them so that we could know which exactly we're dealing with or which exactly we're handling, right? So that's for that spacing. All right. So somebody was asking about installing plugins. So if you want to install plugins, you just need to come here. See my mouse, right? Resources. They call it resources here on Figma. Resources. Under resources, you come to plugins, right? So you will need to know the plugins. So this is all the plugins in community. These are some of the ones I have used recently. This is all the ones in the community. You can quickly click on go to community to check them more. But then if you know the name, you can just search for the plugin, sticky notes or something, sticky sticky notes, as you can see. It's giving me a list of sticky notes plugin, so this is how to find plugins, right? So you can browse more plugins in the community. As you click on community, you can take the community here, and then you can browse more plugins, right? See plugins here, files, widgets, resources, Figma plus Figjam, Figma alone, Figjam alone. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of resources, icon plugins, different Figdon, a clean way for your team to keep design status visible without cluttering your canvas, tons of work there. All right, so that's for community and that's for adding plugins. All right, I hope you guys learned a lot. Okay, someone is asking, is the Google Doc form? Yes, it's on Slack. Temitope is on Slack, right? The form is on Slack, right? Damilola is asking, must spacing start from 8 pixels? No. 8-point grid system is a very balanced system for the web, right? It's a very balanced grid system for the web. Balance. When I mean by balance, it just helps you design better. Your devs would fight you so much more if your work are just all over the place, right? But then you can use other grid systems, right? Okay, I've explained a lot, and I'm just checking YouTube now. I've explained a lot, Someone is saying you did the mini project tags in the same file as that of the style library. All right, yeah, I think it's safe. It's safe as long as you select that page while you are submitting. All right. Someone said one of the resources, the YouTube video on creating a style guide with Chandan. Okay, I learned how to create components, variants, nice. And in other resources, I also learned that you can change the color of an element in your component, making it a very design when you want to. My question is, can you please show me how to do this? Chandan video doesn't cover this. All right, I think I showed this in the previous class, but then sure, why not? I'll show you again. So this is a quick sample like I did earlier here. Is this it? I'm not sure. Is this it? What's it? I did it earlier somewhere here. All right, this is it, right? So this is the work. All right, so let's get it more interesting. So this is a sample, right? So let's say hi. Whoever asked the question, I hope you're listening. Whoever asked that question, I hope you're listening. All right. So let me just go over stops again. Let me detach instance for this, and let me just delete every other button that's here, right? I love to have very interesting icons on my work, so it looks sweet. So let's go and get a sweet icon. Let's get plus icon. I like plus icon. All right. So let's get plus icon. Let's get back in here and let's fix plus icon in here. All right. Let's get this out. Okay, cool. This is pretty much interesting. The height of this button is I don't like the height. So let's bump it up a little bit, make it 28 48. Let's have the side width, and then let's give it balance in center so it looks a bit more interesting. And then let's get right into it. All right, so the spacing in between this it looks so weird. All right, so this 4 looks pretty much good. So yes, for example, let's say this is your button, right? This is button, for example, button. All right, so let's say so I hope you're listening, whoever asked the question. So let's say I've defined my color, right? And this is an example of my color. So let's say this button, let me just make this button gray, one very weird color right now, right? So this is my color, right? For example, I hope you're listening. And then I call this color, what's this color? I don't know what this color is, but then let me just call it my primary color, right? So I come here, I hope you're listening. Please, everyone should look. I come here and I say, I want to add style, right? I want to add style. So this is this 4 dots, you click on it, it shows you color styles, and then you click on this create style. So when I create style, I call this primary color, for example, and I put create style. So it means this primary color is my style, right? So every time I come in here, I can come and edit this style here. I can change my primary color to anything I want. As you can see here, I hope you can see my screen well. I hope my screen is clear enough. So you can see I'm changing my primary color to anything, right? Just from coming to edit. So I'm not just editing on the surface now. I'm coming inside here. I'll click on here. Then I come here to this settings icon. I click on edit style. And then I come here and then I can change my style to anything I like or anything I want. So let's say this is what I've changed my style to now. Because when we discuss with the stakeholders or when I discuss with the owners of the project, right? they said they want a different primary color, or your brand designer did a redesign and you are changing the color. So for example, right? So see the work. So we've done this here, and now this is our primary color. Now you now have a button, right? This is a button. Now this button, you want to use your primary color on this button. So this is how you do your style guide. I hope you all are listening, right? So when you have your style guide, you have created your colors first, your colors and typography created first, right? So for example, let me see. So you can see, for example, I have a typography style that is designed, that is what should I say design now? So let's call this, so this is color, right? This is an example of typography. So let's say I want to add a typography style also. I want to call this, so I have one that is defined here called paragraph, right? So I want to call this a new text style, and I call it paragraph /01 or something, and I say create style, right? So meaning that now I have my text style. You can see it defined here on the left. Please look very well. Someone is saying, can you please just listen to what I'm saying right now? I know you have tons of questions. You might find this handy, right? So I've defined color. Now I'm defining typography, right? You can see here, you can see on the left hand, my text styles. See my color style here, primary color defined here. My text style, I have paragraph. I have this 01 paragraph here. Now I will now come here and change this one that I've defined manually. I'm going to change it to paragraph 01. Now you can see that this button is now using paragraph 01. Then I'll change the color also. I'll select the color. I'll click on this 4 button again and select primary color. Can you see right now that I've selected primary color? And so if I come to this top, and for example, and I come to my primary color and I say I want to edit my primary color, I hope you all are looking carefully, and I change my primary color, you can see that even the button is changing in color because the button is inheriting its color from the primary color I've defined initially. Can you see? The same thing happens with typography. So if I come here and say I want to change this typography scale, I want it to be bold. You can see that the typography here is also becoming bold. Why? Because it is inheriting its typography component and properties, is inheriting its typography properties from the one I have defined initially. So I could make it regular back. I could change the font style to say any kind of font style, right? You see that it's changing font style. I could also change this to DM mono, so let's just keep it back to DM sans, right? For example, I love DM mono. All right, let's make it DM sans, right? So I could change the font size. So if I change it to say I change to 10, you can see it's reducing in size. So because it's taking its property from the one I had initially defined, right? So I'll take it back to 18 and keep it the way it is. Now, where it gets really much more interesting is even this button, right? You could do much more stuff with this button to make it inherit other properties, that will inherit properties from the color and then from this typography, and then even from this button itself by using components, right? This is really from the question that the person asked. The question the person asks is the resources, creating style guides, and now you want to show how you can make components and it affects all your design. So I have only showed you styles. Now let me show you components, right? This is a button, for example. Now we are going to make this button a component so that any change we make to this button is going to happen everywhere around the app, right? So let's say this is the button, right? When you want to create components, you either press Option Command K, or you just press this this thing here, this icon here. So when you press it, you can see that it has changed to purple on the left, and it has now changed to purple. If you check before, it was blue, it was black here, but when you click on it, it has changed to purple, telling you it's a component now. So what does that mean? It means that you can have an instance of this. So for example, if I just press Option down and I drag a component, a property, an instance, sorry, out of this component, right? You can see for here that this one that is filled on the left hand side here, please, you can kind of like just maybe make a maximum width of the screen right now so you can see this. You can see this is the main component that is filled here. This one that looks empty, that is only having strokes around it, is an instance of this component. Now, where does the power then come in about component being able to make big changes to your work, right? So you could click on this outer component, and then for example, if we change the color, now it's inheriting primary color, right? So if I come here and I'm editing the color, primary color, no, so say I'm coming here and I'm editing the color, primary color, you can see that even the instance of the component is changing in color, right? So which is still the same thing that I've been explaining from the beginning, right? So now let's say we are doing something peculiar to this button, for example. Let's say we are changing the general icon that this button has. So let me go to here and let me pick a new icon, for example. So let's say we are picking a, let me look for an interesting icon. Let's say we are picking a send icon. Let's just use this one, for example. Let's say picking a send icon. Oh no, let's use a switch, a lightning icon. Right, so let's say we're using lightning icon. I come to this button. You see, once I put paste here, you can see that even this instance is changing. If I come here, I remove this one, I delete the plus icon, then I change this to white. You can see for yourself that even this instance of the button. So if we create 100 of this kind of button, for example, you can see even when I reduce the size of this button, see, you can see that even the one below is reducing in size. Anything you do to this main one is affecting every other instance. You get, so let's say I create hundreds of these components and they are living in different places in my app. You know, for example, in my app design, I have very different variants. There are plenty what's it called now? No, not variant. There are plenty instances, right? Then, so once you do something to this, so let's come again. Let's pick a new icon. Let's bring back our plus icon here and let's add it here. Oh, someone is saying I'm too fast. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm really looking at the time, right? I'm so sorry. So okay, let me try and be slow, please. I'm so sorry. All right, so let's say I'm bringing back this plus icon here, for example, and I'm pasting this here, you know, changing it. You can see it's affecting every instance, right? So if we delete this one, you can see everything is happening almost immediately. You can see everything is happening almost immediately, right? So I'm so sorry if I was too fast. Obviously you can watch the video again, but then this is the power of components and defining your style guide, right? When you define a style guide, you are able to make changes like a superhuman, right? So you can just go to your button, you just go to your primary color, change your primary color, and everywhere within the app, the primary color is changing. Where this thing is always very useful is your font, right? So let's say, for example, now we have used all these buttons in different places in our apps, right? And now it is inheriting its typography from the initial typography we have defined, right? So let's say we now decide on the theme that we want to change our font now, and we now want our font to be DM mono, no more longer DM sans. You can see the magic here. Once I click on DM mono, everything is changing to DM mono everywhere they are in your app design, right? So that is the power of defining your style, of having a style guide, and that's the power of components, basically, right? So I hope that someone says they're following. Okay. So I say, how do I duplicate component with shortcuts? All right. So this is what I do, right? I just select the component I want to duplicate. My mouse is on it. Then I press option. On Windows, it's going to be alternate. So you press alternate, and then you just, as you can see something. I'm sorry. All right. So you can see when this is it, right? The moment I press alternate or option, you can see that it's like the cursor is doubling, right? See, I'm pressing alternate. The cursor is doubling. Let me zoom it in more so you've seen it. The cursor is doubling. The cursor is doubling every time I press alternate. Every time, right? So the moment I press alternate and the cursor doubles, right? I can just draw it out, just like you are moving it, right? But then when you press alternate and you're trying to move it, it is going to be creating another instance. Can you see? So if you press alternate, it's going to be creating another instance. So another quick way is just press Control D. Control D is going to duplicate. Control D, Control D, Control D. Control D is going to keep duplicating, right? So, but then alternate and dragging is another way of duplicating. Do you get? All right. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the form. This person has, whoa, lots of questions. Is there a library for style guide? What do you mean by library for style guide? You're meant to design your style guide yourself. So let's say when making primary secondary button, there's our button, a primary button reflect our primary color, and secondary reflect our secondary color, but primary and secondary button just different shades. So yeah, your primary and secondary button, if you want them to have the primary color and secondary color respectively, that's fine. If not, it's totally fine. See, for example, on this work that I did here, right? Where is it? yes, this is my primary button, right? This is my primary button, this is my secondary button. They are both having my primary color, right? Which is okay, which is a very good way to have it, right? They're both having my primary color. The only thing that's happening is that they look different, right? This one is filled, this one is stroked. So, but then if you want to have a secondary color, it's totally fine also. If you also want your, this thing, your, what's it called now? If you also want your stuff to have a third color, like your tertiary button, basically more like your minimal button, to have another color, like that's totally fine. Just do what works for your platform, right? But then I'll advise you just make it the same color with your primary color. Don't stress on that, right? Okay. All right. So obviously, please explain how to do alert notification. I've explained this already, so I'll be skipping it. How to do alerts. I explained that here. You can see this is an example of alerts that I've done, right? Alert. Let me do a quick view for you. Look at my design system that I have here, right? This is an example of alerts, right? See, it's not difficult. Then you might want, in case there's more message, this is another sample of alert, right? So that's it. Let me keep going. So it says, explain how we are to do typography. So it's explain how you're supposed to do typography. All right. So now doing your typography, you need typography skills. First, understand the purpose of typography, right? The reason why you're supposed to do typography is because you need different skills of typography, right? So first off, there are plugins that make you do these things faster, but me, I don't use them, right? I don't really use them because most of the projects I've worked on since those plugins came out, they have always been style guide or design system already, so I don't have so much work to do on design system, right? And when I was doing my own design system, it's been, I don't know, it must be over a year now since I did the design system, if not almost 2 years, right? So I'm not sure that plugin was available then. So for typography, right? So you want to have your, let's say, heading. I'm not going to be very direct with doing this, right? Because so you want to have your heading starting from say 32, or whatever. Then you want to have maybe 24, and then you want to have maybe an heading. This heading could be medium, this one, this heading could be, it could call, there are different ways, right? I think some persons call it H1, H2, something. H1 can be bold, H2, maybe H3. There are different ways to name your typography, right? H3, and H3. Then there's maybe there's body, and then for body you're having 16 regular, and then you're having maybe small body, which is maybe 14. It's regular, right? Then I mean, there are different ways to define your typography, right? There's really no one way. Let me just show you what I have here. It's make it much more easier, right? So I have heading here, heading, headline H900, AM 700. So yes, I like using this to define my typography. Look at my headline here. You can see I use 900, 800, 700, 600, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100 to define sizes, right? For paragraph, then I have 300, 200, and 100. So I have headings. All these are headings that I use for headlines. Then all these are paragraphs, right? Then this typography is just a little bit, this is just a little more explanation, right? Really, all you need is this H1, blah, blah, blah. Then defining the styles on the left side. Then you need this documentation of this one now is semi-bold, the size is 32, the line height is 40. The shape, for example, right? So if you check it here, headline, you check it here, you will see the size is 32, and then what you have here is the line height. Line height is 40, right? So here the size is 24, the line height is 32, the size is 20, the line height is 24, right? So, all right. So that's line size is 16. So this is for so that's so all of what I have in the middle here now is how to use it. Use this size on oversized screen titles, use in moderation. Main titles, use only once per page. So this is documentation. This is a design system. For a style guide, you don't need all this documentation, right? I'm using this documentation for other designers that will be working with me, or for developers that will be making some of this style guide. For this particular style, headline 700, top level headers, empty states, and feature introductions. Can you see? For this one, it is headings that identify key functionalities. For H1 500, I use subsection headings and field group headings, right? This H400 is for deep headings, highlighting important pieces of information, right? This heading 300 is for low-level headings up a group of list items, right? This is heading 200, low-level headings, drop-down, and table headings, right? So this is a design system. That's why it has all the documentation. But really, all you need for a typography scale is this and this, just this and this, a documentation of the size, and then just showing just giving a physical representation of how it's going to look, right? I hope that explains typography for you. I really hope he explains it right. I don't know, I believe with this, right, you should be able to scale, like check more resource and just help yourself, right? Don't get it too complicated, okay? Please ask your question. Can the color of an image be changed in Figma? An image? No, you can't. But then you can do a little bit of mix, right? I play around. So let me use a quick example. So this is, my time is almost up. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to okay, I think I'm supposed to be on this call with Fola, so I may be able to stay a little bit beyond 1 p.m., right? So this is an image. I'm opening a plugin on Splash. I'm running on Splash. For the person that asks a question on image, I'm running on Splash. On Splash, please run. What's happening? Sorry, on Splash, yeah, this is on Splash, right? So I'm picking a random color, a random image of business. It's going to insert it for me randomly. Okay, I don't like this one. Let me pick, okay, let's use it. Let's see. So somebody asking if you want to change color. You can't really change color, right? This is a JPEG, right? JPG. This is a JPG, right? So this is JPG. I'm not sure you really need to know about this to stress yourself, but then you can only edit, right? For example, if you had luminosity, makes it black and white, you know, can if you can screen it out, it won't work for JPG, right? Screening works for SVGs. Basically, you can contrast exposure, reduce exposure, right? Make it darker, you know, then add contrast, right? You can add some saturation, you can tint a little bit, different shades, you know, have some highlights, shadows. So these are just basic editing. Figma is not good with image editing, right? So, but then if you want to do it for PNG image, right? Let's say it's a PNG. Yes, you can change the color in a way. So let me look for a PNG image and let me show you how you change color PNG image in case you need it for some of your works, right? So for someone, I hope this is PNG. All right, let's copy this image. Let's come back to Figma. So this is an example of a PNG image, right? You can see a PNG image is one that does not have a background. Let me prove it to you that it doesn't have a background, right? So let me select a frame around it. You can see, sorry. All right, so let's just bring this in on top, right? So you can see that now his background is now white. If I change the color of this background to black, you can see his background is now black, red. So it's obviously sure that it doesn't have a background, right? So let's turn it back to white. So let's say you want to change the color of this image because you want to use it in your app, right? And your primary color, blah, 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 blah story. You just need to change the color of this image, right? Obviously, you can't change it here. There's nothing to do here. So what I do is I mark this image with another image, with a rectangle or something, right? So see, for example, I'm reducing the size, then I'm selecting a rectangle. This is my rectangle here, right? The color I want to change this stuff to is, let's say I'll change my primary color. So let's just select this color, right? I want to change to this color, right? So you select this, you put it on top, whatever, just put the rectangle on top, the image, select the image under. You can see this is the rectangle here, this is the image. Make sure both of them are selected. Then click on marks. Can you see this is called use as marks? Once you select use as marks, can you see the color has changed, right? So each time you come to these marks and change the color of this box, you can see that the color is changing. You can change the color to whatever it is that you want. You know, that's the power of marking. So that's really only way you can change color of an image for the person that asks that question, right? So you use marks, right? All right, so that's that for that question. Are we to include all the user pain points in our library web design? What do you mean by library web design? I mean, you guys have been even more technical than I am, right? What do you mean by user pain points? All right, your user pain point, what tags are you talking about here? Mini project or what? Something I did my mini project in the same project tags. My mini project in the same file as that of the style guide library. This is because I needed, okay, I hope that's no problem. I'm not sure it's a problem as long as you can find your work, right? I'm not sure it's a problem. So when designing for mobile, must we also design landscape mode? No, not a must, right? But if you know that your users are going to use your app in landscape mode, for example, you are designing a game for a mobile, you know, users will obviously use it more in landscape mode, right? Obviously, you should design landscape. If not, there's no point. Someone says, I'm having issues with changing the color of different variants when creating button components. Are we going to mix? Okay, you are changing the color. You shouldn't have issue with changing color, right? It's because you are changing the color one after the other. If you have been in this class, can you imagine? I'm even doing this on my design system. What the hell? All right, so yeah, this is the rough board where we are doing all our jargons. All right, so if you had listened to this class, you'll be able to change your color easily. So if you have defined your color style initially before going on to do your button, all you need to do is just come to the left, see your color style, your primary color, just come here and it will do the magic for you, right? See, it is changing all the color just at once, like no stress. You get it now? No stress, changing all the color for me almost immediately and instantly, right? So that's what you need to do, right? The next one is, are we to make the spacing into component or leave it like that? Just leave the spacing like that. Just leave it. Don't even make it into component. All right, someone is asking, should all the star guide be on the same page or different page? The same page, the same page, the same page, please. A brief on how to go about my mini assignment on library. Where can I get image to add? Go to Unsplash, right? Look at how I got Unsplash, right? Is a plugin here, Unsplash. Run. Unsplash has tons and tons of images from abstract to minimal, nature, plant, portrait, space, technology, different kinds, right? Just go to Unsplash. You can also search for whatever you want to see. All right, so use Unsplash quickly, you know, just to get stuff. So it says, is it advisable to download the Figma app or just work on the web? Anyone that works for you, right? If you have a system that can carry the stress of the app, right? Why not? You know, but then if it's the web also, why not? Just use anything that works. I've been seeing different ways to the 8-point grade system. What's the standard way? There's no standard way. Do a way that works for you. In design, there's nothing standard. There's only a way that works, right? Once it works, just let it go, like let it fly. Does it solve the problem? Does it address what you want to do? Do you achieve what you want to do? Then if that's the situation, then it's totally fine, right? Totally fine, okay? Someone is saying also, would changes made to a component affect the variant? Would changes, that question sounds so strange. So let me quickly check. Would it affect the variant? Let me check. I'm not sure it should, because a variant is multiple components, right? So variant means multiple components. So let's say this is this, right? And let's say I'm having let me detach instance and create this. So let me not just deal with this. So let me leave this here, right? So let's say this is a new kind of component and this is another component, for example. So let me detach instance on both of them. Right, so let's call this, let's say we are making a bigger size, right? So let me just make it 24, right? And just bear with me, I'm breaking the system. But let me just increase the height, say 14, for example. So it's wider, right? I'm trying to make it wider. 13. Oh, 12 works. Does it work? Okay, I have to make this defined, right? So 24, does the 2 work for this line height? Does it? It doesn't. Does it? 12. Let's make it 12. All right, 56. All right, there 2 works for line height for this. All right. Okay. So this is, for example, now this is big button, right? I'm sorry. This is big button. It's bigger than this one, right? This is small button. It's not very obvious. So let me make it 64. It's not very obvious. All right, let me make 64. Right? Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's just make it. So we made it 64, right? So this is, for example, now this button is button small, button big, right? So if I want to name this button, I'll name it button, look at my left hand, slash small, right? Slash small. And if I want to name this one button, you know, slash big, right? For example, and then I select the both of them, and then I'm pressing this drop down, I'm creating a component set, not multiple components, component set, right? That's how you create variants, right? So once I select component set, you can see that this, these are variants, right? So if, for example, I can select this particular button, you know, and then what, I can change it to big, or I can change it to small, big or small on the left hand side, right? So now we're talking about editing. So if you edit one of these, right, So this is what happened. So now let me edit. So if I edit the style, okay, no, it doesn't affect. Yes, okay, I've gotten an answer to the question, right? So variants are different components in one, right? So they are all buttons, but then they are different sizes of button, right? They are all text fields, but they are different types of text fields, right? There is the enable text field, there is the field, there is the over, there is the error state, there is the disabled text field, there are different variants of text field. They are all text fields. So there are different components in each of them, right? So when you edit enabled, it's not going to affect disabled. When you edit error, it's not going to affect it's not going to affect over, so it's not going to affect, right? So that answers the question. It's not going to affect. But for example, when you edit your text style, your fonts, for example, it's going to affect both of them, right? So if I come here and I say I'm editing my font, I'm changing it back to DM Sans. I like DM Sans now. You can see that it's changing. Okay, sorry, I already broke this one. Like you can see, I broke it out of the system because I wanted a bigger size. That's why it's not changing. But yes, you can see it's going to change everything, right? DM Sans looks suddenly weird. Right, okay. So let's get.
It's weird.
Exactly. For that, just joined. Okay, so that's for that question. That's just the other question. I hope I've answered this question. Person asking. So for 8-point grid system, just use what works, right? Someone says I don't know what is wrong with my typography. Voila. The writing is really tiny. I don't know how to make it big and clear. I use this and it is
the
I'm using them as my font. And I can't even see my body and headings.
Okay. I think maybe the person activated, this outline. Outline hides the main thing.
Okay.
Because it's saying it cannot see the body and the headings or anything, and it's looking so thin. So probably the person activated outline, so it's just showing the outline of the text.
Wait, I'm even trying to understand. Like, what do you mean by outline?
Okay. Write a text now. Use black so that they can see clearly. Okay. Now, right. Make it an outline. Right click and put it as an outline. Outline strokes.
Oh, strokes.
No, not there. Right click, go to outline.
Yeah.
Or flattening. Flattening section. Flattening section. Flats.
Flat.
See it flat. See it there.
Oh, okay. Flatten. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, click outside.
It's still showing.
Why is not showing effect?
It just changed to a vector, basically.
Yes, but there's sometimes that when you do some text, there's a way you thin it out, especially when you select elements and then or a group of text or a group of what's it called? A group of elements. There's a way it outlines. People will be like they are working and then it disappears. They cannot see it again.
Wow, I don't know. That's never happened to me.
Several students usually complain about it. We tell them to refresh the Figma, then it's come back to normal.
All right. So maybe you want to refresh.
They should close their Figma and open it again.
All right. So close your Figma. Just close your Figma and open it again. Close your Figma and open it again. So obviously that fixes. Somebody is saying, is it a must to use component and variants? It looks a bit stressful. Hey.
You don't want to use you don't want to use component and variants. Oh my God, you like stress. When you're designing over 500 screens and you need to change the color of the button.
Exactly.
Your eye go open, you go use component and variants by fire by force.
So if you don't want to use component and variants because you want to avoid stress, I mean, you are just opening the door for stress. Because by the time you want to change
for more stress.
Telling you, if you want to change color, you will now go and change the color one by one. Or if you want to change the button, you're now going to be changing the button on all the designs. then you now say you have
Somebody
been
said,
working for
I don't
money.
want peace, I want problem always. That's the definition. If you say you don't want to
That's
use
the perfect
components.
definition. That's the perfect definition. So please just
It
learn
makes your work
component design.
easy.
Just learning.
And
Just
it's
learn.
easy now. It's nothing difficult. Like the icon is there. Just click it and that's created. And I showed them a couple of it yesterday as well. It's something simple. It's not
Exactly.
difficult at all.
It's not difficult, sincerely. It's not difficult. And I mean, there's tons of resources everywhere to learn, like everywhere. So it's not difficult.
Okay, see this next question. Most of them are saying they don't understand spacers. And I think yesterday class, I tried to show them how to just show you that we are just trying to tell you about the spacing system, and you just draw boxes, frames in that particular spacing system. And it's a matter of putting it between elements to let developers know that, okay, this is the space between this and this, and all those stuff
Exactly.
like that.
I actually
Just for
explained
developers to know. I did too. Yeah, I created something as similar as this 8, 24, 16, 32, like that. But I don't get why they are not understanding. Like they should just replicate exactly the same
exactly.
thing.
Just do this right, and then, like I said, just like
Arrange it.
like just give it like what's it called, like labels, right? Just give it labels like 16. This I think starts from 8, 16, 24, 30.
Yeah.
Just give it label. Like this is it, right? What spacers basically do is just to help your developers understand what's happening, like all the spacing in between all you have. So that's really all. So it's not like one special. I don't know. Spacers is not
Okay,
a
I'm
big
coming
deal.
from my head. Let me look for one design where we had to put spacers for developers to see. Maybe they will now understand why we use them. Maybe they are thinking because we use auto layout, and with auto layout you can control your spacing. So most of them are probably feeling like they don't need it.
Oh yeah,
However,
but it's really for your developers, and for a large file for design teams, right? So imagine you have like 30 designers or 20 designers, right? So it just makes it very easy for everybody to understand what's happening. And then a new designer joins the team and then is wondering what's the spacing, you don't want him to go and be
what's
checking.
spacing system?
Hope the project is open source, because now I know the open project now.
Okay, yes. It's Zuri chat. I want to show them. There's one, that star guide we created for Zuri chats.
Yeah. But am I on Zuri?
Yeah.
I was added to Zuri chat. Let me see.
Zuri that is design system. Do you have it?
The design system.
Okay, allow me to share. If you have, or if you have no need, if you have Zuri chat design system.
I'm not sure.
Let's
No, I
start
was
first.
involved on that project. Let me just stop sharing. So if you
you give me share access. Share the host. Just give me click on the share, and I'll also be able to share my screen. Because after that, I'll stop sharing. Okay, so see Zuri chats. Have you enabled it? You say you've disabled it. You need to enable participants to have access to share. Earlier, I used to on the call.
Oh, I didn't know I was muted. Wow. All right. Yeah, I've enabled it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Zuri chats. All right. Now look at the way we use spacers here. As you can see, you can see. Then, if you see here, we are showing that the space between this and this is 16 pixels. Then where else do we use? Okay, see, you can see spacing is 62 pixel, spacing is 8 pixel. So this is how we used spacers for Zuri chat. See this as well. Spacing is 16 pixel. So that is how we use spacers. So developers, when they were implementing, see this side too. You put it there. This is 16 pixel. You can see that the width is 16. So we were able to use that to like explain to, and that's what we did for every single sprint. So in our this stuff now is in our style guide. So this was Richard's style guide. So part of the style guide is where we created this. So anytime anybody wanted to design anything, they come and pick an empty frame to do their design, which you already have all the spacers instruction. So this is what spacers are for. It just enables developers to know that, oh, from one part of the screen to another part, this will be the spacing that will be there. So basically that's how it works.
Yeah. So someone is saying, doesn't mean you have to place. Now, when you are doing your designs, right, you don't have to until you are working with devs, right? So
yeah,
it's
until when you are working with developer that you want to hand off to them, that's when you now start putting those spacers there.
Exactly. So let me see what's the next question. Someone is asking, what's the difference between a variant and an instance?
Okay, variant and an instance.
Yeah. So I think because I was mentioning, instance, like instance of a component, and then
Is it the same? Is it not the same thing?
So basically, right. So the thing with instance and variants, now instances are just like so let's say you have a button, right? And then for that particular button with all the properties, you are duplicating that particular button, which is a component, right? With all the same properties. So those other ones you are duplicating are instances of that particular button. Right. But then when it comes to variant, it's still the same button, but now you might just have some changes in the properties, right? For example, it might be bigger, it might be smaller, so that's just like basically the difference. So it's not really that big, but then having those different nomenclatures for them, right, it makes it very easy to differentiate them. But then it's not that big. Yeah, it's still the same button. Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to demonstrate what you were talking about.
Exactly.
So picking this is an instance from this main component. These are variants. This is the main component. This is the main component. This is the variant of the component. This is an instance of that component. So they are all the same thing. That's you duplicate. If I duplicate this as well again, this is another instance. If I duplicate it again, this is another instance.
Exactly.
You understand? So if I duplicate again, it's another instance. So they are coming from this. So from here, you can now decide to choose the variant you want an instance to be. Maybe 2 or 3 or this other one, depending on whatever you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. So that's the difference between instance and variants. Oh, someone is talking about spacers. So we've explained spacers already.
Yeah, that the question has come up multiple times.
Someone is saying, what do you mean by input field should consist of different states? I think I'd explained this already today. Like you need different inputs: enabled, override, field, error, and like you just need to have them, right? When you imagine you are filling a form and then you got your password wrong, right? It tells you the wrong password. That's error states of the input field. Before you select the input field to put in your information, it has a state, right? So that's the reason why you should have different states, basically.
Another thing I noticed is that most of them did not watch that the video Chandan recorded, because if they followed it step by step, Chandan did it one after the other. He did the first state and he labeled them. So if they were watching and pausing, they will have seen all the different states and what it meant. But most of them, like this person now, already did an assignment and saying, what does this one say? I already submitted an assignment before this. Yeah, it's fine. It's not going to reduce your mark. It's just great.
But we're told to use returns on our grades to make it visible. Oh, yeah, I remember this came up a lot last course.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. By the time the person puts press shift G on their system or this thing, they will see the. So you are good to go. Then another thing is some people have rushed to submit that library assignment. And noticed it about 4 people. The mini project.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the mini project has user stories, some set of user stories already. So some of them, like that same last week, that day that on Monday when I checked, I noticed that about 4 people have submitted. And when I look
Wow.
at what they did, it is obvious
Oh,
that they did not calm down, they did not
nice.
read through it and
Nice.
all, which is a mistake a lot of people have been doing. They will not go through the resources and
Nice.
just do the assignment, which is like not cool at all. They end up doing the wrong thing.
I feel like I know some of you all are like senior designers already, but like I think it's really cool for you to like go through what the instructions that are given, right? Understand the task, and most importantly, don't see. We tell you you can go ahead, like go far and all like that, fine. But then at least wait for the first office hour of the week before you can do the tax down. Like let's say now some of you, I think some persons have even submitted week 6 or week 8, or I think someone has even
Yeah, I
submitted.
was shocked.
Someone has submitted the
I
last
was,
time, right? That's totally
I
fine.
was
Like,
shocked though.
voila. But then I feel like you can do the tax, leave it in Figma or leave it wherever you have done the tax. Wait for the week, come on the office hour, clear all your doubts, be sure you have done the right thing, and then submit. Like that's really like the best way to do it, right? We are not saying don't do the tax. Go ahead, do the tax till the end, right? But wait for the week of the tax. Wait for at least the first 2 or 3 office hours. Make sure that you clear all your doubts. Go to the form, quickly submit all the questions that you may have, clear all your doubts, and then when you are cleared, then maybe the third or second day of the week, or you are sure that okay, you have done the perfect work, then submit. If not, anyway, whatever, the point, what you guys must understand is that each of these tasks that I did for product design is what is going to be determine your grade, is what is going to determine if now Xylox already said that if you don't get up to 70%, you're not even getting certificates, even if you finish the end, right? So you just keep losing marks by going ahead or going forward, doing the wrong thing, and then discovering you did the wrong thing, right? But then it's fine. Just continue. Voila. So John is saying, can you also use auto layout for your spacers rather than a rectangle? I don't know what you mean by auto layout for your spacers. Auto layout for your spacers. I don't know how you mean by auto layout.
Maybe frame, they've been mixing frames with auto layouts.
If you meant frames, right? Sure. I mean, why not? Sure. If it's frames, right? Sure, you can. So it's fine. Someone is saying, are we going to add spacers to each design screen, or there's a shortcut to do that? No, you don't have to, right? Like we say, only when you're working with devs to show, it's just for proper documentation and handoff, right? For your developers to be able to work well. They need spacings in all the work, right? I don't know. Is there? I'm also thinking is there a plugin is there a plugin that does that stuff automatically? I think I've seen a plugin that does it, but it
I'm
doesn't do
not
it well.
sure.
It doesn't do
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe for me, the way I use what's it called spacers, and probably because I don't I work physically in the same place with the developer, so I'm able to explain verbally that okay, the spacings are like 8
yeah.
spacings with them and all of those things. And I'm able to go to their system and show them something, inspect their code and say, okay, no, you're missing something and all those things. So for me, my own end of process has not really required me imputing those spacers there. So what I just do basically is to highlight it in the style guide. And like, for example, the part that you have headings that will say spacers, and I'll arrange the spacers and I'll put notes there stating that, okay, the spacing system for this design is 8 spacing system and this, and that explains it all. That's what I just do sometimes. Then I'll ensure that everywhere my
For we lost you for a while. Are you still there? Fola, are you here? Maybe that's network. So yeah. So you don't need to write. You don't need to add spacing. Only when you're working with developers. And that's when it's like, I'm not sure you need to right now. Someone is saying, Please, when I want to extend or reduce a frame when designing, what's the question? I'm coming, trying to get. Let me just share my screen. Okay, someone say, when I want to extend or reduce a frame when designing, why do the elements, including text, scatter or cluster, is frustrating? Oh, sorry, Catherine. Yeah. All right. So it's just like, say, for example, now I want to reduce this my design that I've done here, product design class, right? See, it's even closing up, right? So if you had used maybe a rectangle or something or a group, it would just be crying. Like it will be crying, right? It's frustrating. See, it's folding up. Like, why are you doing this to me? Right. So let me explain what's happening, right? This is a frame, and then there is group, right? You cannot just reduce the size of your frame because every stuff in your work has sizes. This is a mobile app design, for example. Let me delete this. Let's make it look more clean, professional. Let's make it look more standard, right?
Sorry, I got cut off.
Oh, okay. How do you network?
Now my network.
Okay.
Uh,
So I was explaining, someone is saying they're having issues with, like when they reduce a frame, like something like this, everything's scattering or is closing.
That's why I told them. Okay, part of the first rule I told them is that they should never reduce the width of their original frame, but they can increase the height. They should not reduce or increase the, like now, you've selected frame 11 Pro, right? You can increase your height, but never increase the width. The moment you increase the width, it's out of the phone, but you can increase the height. I told them that.
Exactly. So the same goes for web also, right? Like I told you guys, you use
whatever screen you select originally.
0, yeah. So you can increase height. Yes. But then
I saw
height,
somebody did something funny.
Okay.
For this for this grilled, the person started drawing rectangles to represent these red lines, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other.
Like rectangles like this.
Yes, and gave it the color.
Wow. Anyways,
when I was grading,
I want to believe that.
I found it funny because by the time you put it, maybe because the person felt it is blank, but by the time you do from our hand, as long as you use grid on that design, by the time I do Ctrl G, it will make your grids this thing visible, and I'll see that yes, you did grid on that design.
Obviously. That I just want to believe, I feel like you guys should take time going through resources, right? Don't rush through resources. Just like take time to understand what's happening. If there's anything that you don't understand, maybe you are feeling sleepy, just like off it. The goal is not to finish the resource, like the goal is to understand what's happening, right? That the tutor is saying. So that's really for that. So for the person asking about size, right? Don't try and be reducing your size like this. Don't do that. Don't do this.
I think they were scaling. Sometimes when you want to reduce size of elements, if you want the elements to maintain their proper stuff, just press K on your keyboard and reduce that element. It will maintain its shape and style and consistency. It will not scatter.
Yes, but let me give you a warning.
That's scaling.
If you do that. Let me give you, if you do that, if you give you a task and then you go ahead and do that, right? You scale your work, and then your sizes, because let me give you an example. See the height of this button. This text field is 48, right?
Yeah.
So now,
yes.
Let me scale. If I scale this, I say I want to be bigger frame size. See the height. The height is already 71.
It will keep increasing.
So it's going to
so when you scale, you still have to adjust and stuff like that.
Exactly.
That's why I said elements.
Appropriate size.
That's why I use the word. That's why I use the word elements.
Exactly.
There's something that you need to scale so that it's not be what's the word? Especially icons.
Yes.
You don't want it to be dented or stretched out or something like that. Okay, and one of them they're asking about the mini project that they don't have a video to guide them on. So I'm thinking, should we have like one live class where we show them how to like sample of how to design a landing page? Maybe by next week.
Designing like sure. We can do that by next week. I mean, we can do that one of the officers. Next week is when mini projects. Right? All right. So sure.
Yes, next week is when mini projects Mini project started from this week, but
Ending.
next week is week 4. So it's ending next week.
Okay.
So
That
we
is
can
fine. We
just do
can do it
probably
in
one
the
live
first.
class about landing page.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure, we can.
So that probably to prevent people from using weird color combos together
Exactly.
and all those things.
Exactly. And even
Yeah,
knowing how
although I shared some video link in the Slack channel. I don't know if some of them saw it. The one Loy recorded and Udwak.
which one is that?
Videos for how to design landing pages and some
Last
other.
year.
Yeah, I shared those videos
Okay.
because I know that if they did not go through the YouTube channel to see some of those videos, so I just sent it on Slack. I don't know if they've seen it.
Oh,
We
okay.
are
I
not
mean,
saying you cannot use rectangle. Somebody is saying you have to use rectangle. Yes, you can use rectangle, but it's how will I put it? It's like giving yourself double work. You can use it.
yeah.
You
It's
can
not
use
like
it to
rectangle
put
is
it
wrong
there.
to show, right?
It's
It's
not
just that
wrong.
it's just like, see, let me give you an example, right? So this is the frame. Like just say this is a frame for a web, right? So let me just assume there's no grid here now. So just imagine, just look at timing, right? This is the frame, right? Then I come here and I press layout grid, columns, I make it 8, and add the margin of 64. I mean, this is grid already. Like I'm done with grid, right? So now imagine another, it's not like it's wrong, right? But just telling you that now, when you share this link with us, right? Obviously, we are not going to see this, but when we press Shift G, it's going to show, right? That's when we are grading to know if you have used appropriate grids. So now let's imagine you have this here, for example, and now you have to use what's it called? Rectangles, right? To start showing the grids. And so you can imagine someone that doesn't even know about auto layouts now trying to put all these things one by one. Like it's really much more stressful, right? So it's not like you can't do it. What we are saying is that, so if you are here and then you have used it, like you can just use this normally and then we would still grade it, right? So that's the point. It's not like you can't use it at all. All right. So that's that.
Someone was saying they did not see the link. But
Link to
I
what?
posted about 3 links I posted regarding. Oh, I think Slack I started deleting messages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slack I started deleting messages. So but will Slack delete any message you bookmark or pin down?
Yeah, they'll delete it as long as it's more than 3 months. No, there's a volume of message, right? And then there's 3 months. So
that's 10,000.
Yeah, so once you exceed that, they'll start deleting. But then if it's also more than 3 months, even if you have the message is not 10,000, they'll still delete it. So
okay, so
someone is
let
asking.
me.
Okay, we've done great. Someone is asking about the design process. That's product design process was not clear. Just watch it. I'm not sure that there's no tax on that. So
it's Chandan's class. There's no tax on
yeah,
it. It's just Chandan's class.
just for you to
Most of them are
just
not paying
understand.
attention to. With Chanda, you need to calm down to listen very
Yeah,
well.
that's true. That's true. So there's nothing. It's important to understand, right? But then it's not like the die-hard thing, right? So say, what desktop frame do you recommend to use? What margin you recommend? 128 is too much.
Please, I would recommend 1440 and 1024. That's like even for devs, they prefer that most times. And that way you'll be able to manage your space. You will not have too much white spacing and all. So just the desktop, the frame that says desktop.
Exactly. So that's
Okay, I
for that.
found the link. So
There's
I've
always
pinned
any
it down
margin.
in the channel. So they should check the channel for pin messages. They'll see the links there.
So check the channel for pin messages. You see the link. That's the mini project, right?
Yes, or mother practical video they can check out.
Someone says, what if someone miss a deadline? Is it gone forever? It's gone.
It's gone with that now. They know the open deadline.
It's gone forever.
Deadline
Just
fast. Just focus on the next task.
Someone says you can can we use the same color we used to create primary? Okay, I said you can use the same color you used to create primary buttons when you create secondary buttons. Okay, please, can you show us how to create the variant of the secondary button different from that of primary button? I mean, I basically showed that, right? Like, this is an example here. This primary button, this secondary button. Like, this is primary button field. This is secondary button. These are both buttons. They are different variants. Like, this is really what you need. So I don't know.
But at the end of the call, they should watch the video all over again. They'll see the answer because the question are becoming repetitive.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
question are becoming repetitive. And one thing I also noticed is that one particular person asks the same question on every call. And if when I respond that I've answered it, they don't go back to watch those videos. They don't.
Mhm.
Like after the class, that's it, they move on. Next class, they keep asking.
Exactly.
Because I calmly went through all these questions and was trying to see, okay, did I miss anyone? And then I see that they're mostly repetitive questions.
So that's it. That's it. All right. So yeah, so for the landing page, this thing, it's on the group. I'm sorry, it's on Slack channel. It's on Pro Design channel on Slack, right? All right. So I don't believe
And it's
that's all.
also on Zuri Team
YouTube.
YouTube channel. They
Mhm.
should go there, they'll see the resources. So it's quite easy for them to access.
Yeah, exactly. Someone is saying that's a solid and outline button. I don't. Hey. Okay, let me. So this is it, right? Like, when we say primary buttons now, like, so if I say this is my primary button, right, the kind of is still variant, kind of variant of primary button now I want to have is, for example, this one, right? Where there's let me just pick the icon, right? So I might have one that is just like this, without anything. I might have one that has icon. Then I would have disabled state of this one. It can be something like this, right? Then I may have over state, can be something darker. Then, I mean, just different stuff. Right? And for example, now, so I may have all of these things with so this is with buttons, right? So let's say this is without buttons, right? Even without buttons, right? I would have each of these same whatever, without icons, I mean, So like these are
Sorry,
variant.
there's no grade for missing class. If you miss your task, you've missed it because it has been there for days. It has been there from the beginning of the program. You've seen which
Yeah,
one
yeah,
we
there's
give. You're supposed to plan yourself towards that. So there's
exactly,
no minus mark. You miss it, you miss
exactly.
it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an automated system. We cannot, once you set the date, that's it. You cannot take
Yeah,
it
you
back
can't
again.
change that. All right. So to the person asking about buttons, so this is like example of different variants of like primary button. Then secondary button, you will now come and start another journey, with or without icon or something, and then just what you need, right? So, and then you begin to have different forms. You can have disabled. So for disabled, for this one, it can have a feel that is like grayish or something like that. And then you might want to have it selected, its overed state or so. It can be with changing the color or so. That's really it, right? So it's not about, yes, it's outlined, right? And it's filled, but then filled for your primary button, right? And then outlined for your secondary button. Let me put it that way. I hope that explains it better, right? So I showed you guys a much more sophisticated example with my design system, right? So this is an example. This is primary button filled, right? Filled. This is enabled. This is over. This press. This focus. This is disabled, right? Now this is secondary button. This is enabled, right? This is over. This is press. This is focus. This is disabled, right? So this is error state of button, red. This is more like
Caculuz, you created a design system for yourself.
yeah.
There was one I bumped into that I used. But the thing is, for each project I now want to work on, you have to edit the system, because one major thing that changes with the design system is the shape of the buttons, and also the typeface, that's the font you are using. So sometimes the stress of having to change an entire design system for that. So I'll just copy a portion of it and fit it as a style guide for the new project I'm working on.
It's even more crazy.
Except if in your design system, maybe you created different types of buttons there.
No, exactly. I'm even thinking of like expanding this design system to be like that, like different types of buttons I mostly use.
That you have the rounded
edges,
buttons,
rounded
the
corners,
sharp edges.
Yes, exactly. But then I've not had the time. And when I created the design system, right, variant was not still very strong. So I
I've seen
have a place of
plenty.
variant, but like I had, obviously now you can use all of this in the design system. So I had to create this variants like separately. Variant just when I did this. So it was very crazy. So if I'm going to revamp the design system, it's going to be hell of work. I'm not ready for it.
Yes. And I think the reason is because Figma gets updated every single day. Like almost every 2 weeks, there's one new update. So
even recently
when they tell you that you cannot finish a design system, it means it's majorly because the software we are using cannot, like, literally
it just gets better. Like recently, Figma released is it component properties now? And
where
I'll
you
be
can
using component properties
stuff
on this kind of design. For example, it's going to eliminate. I may just have like 6 buttons, right? Because you can, instead of this one where I'm having icon left, icon right, all of these are just going to be one. For example, even icons and labels are one. So you can easily just remove labels from your button. I just have just even one, right? With icon left, icon right. You only have variants for enabled, over, pressed, focused, or disabled. Icon left, icon right. You just the way you are toggling all of this stuff, right? So basically, I was checking about it, but I've not had time to like just go depth and check more about it.
You be worrying about graded tax. Don't worry. Focus on doing your tax. Your tax will be graded. Cash, no worry.
Yeah. Tax.
You don't have to be worried. It's the worry for.
Yeah, sure. Update your Figma. Just make sure you check about the update first, like read on it, and then update your
Figma.
Like
they have one update they are pushing now. I've not yet activated it because
which one is that?
It has been popping me that I should update I should install the new update that I refuse to install. I've been postponing it because I'm not ready to. Because each update means it keeps getting heavier all the time.
Exactly. So that's it. Each update keep get. So this is the property. This is component properties. So for example, you can add variant, like immediately add a boolean, add an instance sub, add text. So for example, I can create on my text. It's crazy. This update is very crazy, right? Just reduce your design system like magic. All right. So I think that's all for this class. So that we don't drag the class. I've been here since 12 o'clock. I want to rest my head. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. I believe there's no more question. I'm not seeing any question. Voila. After creating your style guide,
the next class will pick up those questions.
Yeah, better. All right. So your question will be answered in the next class. I think that's today also, 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. Right. All right.
And this person is begging for tax extension. We already answered you about this tax extension. No, we are not opening any tax. Move on to the next tax and forget about it. So sorry.
Just move to the next tax, right? Like the reason, it's not like we can't get, like, you can't, there's nothing we can do about the tax. That's like what I want you to get. Like, system is automated. Once the deadline passes, like it just tells you, like, it just gets closed, right? And then there's nothing anybody can do about it, basically. So that's really why. So just focus on the next tax, right? This is just week 3. We still have large parts of the weeks in the coming But I'll advise you to do the tax for yourself personally, so that because every new week is building on the previous week, right? So you may want to do those tax personally, but you might not be able to submit them. That's just
to submit it.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so
Anyway,
much, everyone.
I believe.
What's that?
Bye, guys. I'm
All right.
telling them bye-bye.
Okay. All right. So bye, everyone.